edition of, I don't know, Commander deck lists. This one is a very interesting one. The first time I seen it was in Iowa. One of my friends, Justen, he ran this Sakashima the Imposter Commander deck, and I thought to myself, okay, a clone is a general, clone that can balance itself, keep its name. Let's see how this goes. Oh my god, it was one of the biggest pain in the asses I've ever played against. Super fun deck to play with if you like blue. It's a lot of fun. The theme of this deck is copy, theft, clone, steal, mimic, and impersonate. Basically everything that annoys everybody about blue. I don't run any counter spells, so don't worry that it's not in there. But everything else that irritates people about blue is in here, and it's funny. It's funny. I don't know what else to tell you. When I ran it in the fantasy shop, this was one of the two decks, or one of the three that I ran that actually won. And I didn't think I was going to, but my opponents, they played good stuff. I took that good stuff and then I hit them with it. And it panned out pretty good. So, we'll get into it. I run 37 lands, 30 basic, 7 non-basic. Just set the Sakashima over here. So I got my 30 basics. I'm going to just get them out of the way there. I'm not going to count it. Forgive my lack of spirit. Just not going to do it. There's 30. So we got my non-basics, Temple of the False God, Shrine to Nykthos. Most of my spells are blue. So I'm going to have multiple blue mana symbols. Sakashima gives me 2 right off the bat. So Nykthos, on average, I'd say nets me, I pay 3 essentially, tapping Nykthos and then the 2 others. 3 lands, 3 mana to net probably 5 to 7, 8 lands, or sorry, mana at a time. Reliquary Tower, it's a staple. Arcane Lighthouse. This is one of the deficits of this deck, is I have to be able to target a lot of times with some of my stuff. So this makes sure that if one of my opponents is running a lot of hexproof garbage, kind of like Lazav, or I don't know, just Silumgar has hexproof, things with hexproof, means I can target it. Now, the other major bane to this deck is Homeward Path. Homeward Path will make me have an uphill struggle. It basically means that, half of my deck's not going to work the way I want it to. Only the copying side will work. So I do run a few Strip Mine type effects, such as Strip Mine, Tectonic Edge, and Ghost Quarter. I could run Encroaching Wastes, but I think 3 is plenty. Now, getting into my creature suite, I only run 19 creatures, which is pretty low for a commander deck. Usually, when you think of 19 creatures, you think of control. I don't consider this control. I don't know. Maybe you would consider, 13 theft devices and whatnot to be control, but only 19 creatures. Shapeshare is a super fun early game creature because it allows me to copy target creature until my next turn. So that's pretty much a clone right there for 2 mana. Trinket Mage, one of the few non-clone creatures because it allows me to tutor up my Soul Ring 90% of the time, or Sensei's Divining Top. Thada Adel Acquisitor allows me to steal artifacts from people, aka Mana Rocks. I ran her as a general. She is super fun as a general too. So if you don't want to be too big of a douche and run Sakashima, then Thada Adel is pretty straightforward. Burnished Heart allows me to tutor up 2 lands, so very handy. Thalicos Deceiver. This is an old school card. I think that's Exodus, the set. It's got Shadow, so that means it's pretty much always going to hit, and whenever it deals combat damage, I can, or once attacking unblocked, I can sack it and gain control of target creature permanently. That's pretty awesome. Master Thief. It's an uncommon that steals artifacts. Fantastic. It also means that most of the time people are going to waste a removal spell on stupid Master Thief. You go ahead and do that. Clever Impersonator. This card is very clever and it's also super fun. Copies a permanent. Phyrexian Metamorph. Copies an artifact or a creature. Very versatile clones. Then we have the one, the only, the OG Gangstalicious clone. Sower of Temptation. For those that have budgets, Sower's a little high in the price range. So Sakashima, but Sower is something that you can probably skip and substitute it with something else, like, I don't know, Mind Control, something like that. It's also one of those cards that if I play it, I can copy it with my copying effects and steal a bunch of other stuff, or worst case scenario, opponents are going to have to waste a removal on Sower of Temptation. Solemn allows me to tutor stuff up. Aura Thief. This is a fun creature because usually it's just going to be a glorified blocker, but it's also kind of a theft deterrent if there's any worthwhile enchantments, because that means when this dies, I gain control of all enchantments. Vesuvian Shapeshifter. I don't have Vesuvian Doppelganger. That's one of the few Shapeshifter things I don't have. So it's not in here, but Vesuvian Shapeshifter is. He allows me to change him into different things just about every turn, so pretty awesome. Can flip it if I don't like something better comes along, flip it, morph it, there we go. Magus of the Future works well with Sensei's Top. Body Double. When things die, I can copy it. Jace's Mindseeker. Now, when I think of theft, I was thinking of other routes other than just me stealing creatures. This allows me to top deck people's really good instants and sorceries. So that's a little angle that some people don't account for. You know, some good decks run a lot of good instants and sorceries. Like I ran Maelstrom Wanderer a while back. That had a lot of powerful instants and sorceries in it. This allows me to top deck them and play them. Duplicant. It's a shapeshifter. And when I think of theft, you know, thinking on the off-beaten path, this allows me to steal your creature and you don't ever get it back. Same with Phyrexian Ingester. It's basically another duplicant, although it's not quite as good. It allows me to kill something. Memnarch, the mastermind thief himself. Now we're getting into my ramp stuff. Let me get my creatures out the way. Alright, got the classical Soul Ring. Worn Power Stone. Now, my curve is very low if I'm just taking into effect my general. A lot of my stuff runs around the 4 mana cost, and I have a lot of good 6 drops. So Worn Power Stone ideally allows me to go from turn 3, having 3 lands, playing Worn Power Stone turn 3, to turn 4, playing my 4th land and having 6 possible mana. So if I didn't want to cast Sakashima, I can forego that and cast a 6-drop. That's why I ran Worn Power Stone. Other than that, I just like it for its cost. It's 3 mana and gets me 2 on the next turn. Again, most of my stuff is blue, so Sapphire Medallion does do some major work in here. Extraplanar Lens. I don't have Gauntlet Power. I don't know if I'd run that one too, but for 3 mana it allows me to double up one of those 30 islands I got. Cage Sun. This is a super cheap card to get. It's only, what, a couple bucks? I don't know. It came out on the newer Commander stuff. Pick those up. Those bad boys are worth it. And just about any deck, even, you know, 2-color decks. If you're running 1 color, say, for example, one of the more recent videos I did was Experiment Kraj. If something's more green or more blue, you can run this and name that color and you'll double up on your mana. Getting into my draw spells, Ancestral Vision. Now, I wasn't sure what to run for my draw spells slot because my draw kind of section, I only had 4 cards worth of space. I picked Ancestral Vision because I can play this turn 1, so it gives me a play turn 1. And ideally, after I cast Sakashima on turn 4, turn 5 hits, that last suspend counter comes off Ancestral Vision. So that really, for that turn 5, that pivotal turn where I'm getting ready to take off after casting Sakashima, it gives me a lot of options with extra cards in hand. So that's why I chose that. Monastery Siege. I picked this because it's versatile for me. When I'm copying and stealing stuff, people are going to be utilizing more spot removal on me. Enchantment destruction runs rampant, and that really hurts me because I have a lot of enchantments. So I can choose dragons and make my stuff harder to target, or if I just want the draw, I can draw an extra card, dump a card. Sensei's Divining Top works excellent with the Magus of the Future and Future Sight. That's kind of my stick lately. I've been flinging that Sensei's Top, Future Sight, BS mumbo jumbo around lately. It's for fun. So in my control column, I got Pognify. I wanted to run Rapid Hybridization. Blue doesn't have a lot of targeted removal, like good solid removal, but Pognify fits the bill. I'd rather whack that Sun Titan and give you a 3/3. So that seems good for me. Another little sleeper card that came out recently in Dragons of Tarkir is Reality Shift. At least I'm pretty sure that's the Dragons of Tarkir set. I don't know. It's either Fate Reforged or Dragons, one of the two. But Reality Shift. Exile target creature, then you manifest the top card of your library. It's kind of like Pognify. Worst case scenario, I'll give you something to morph. Either way, I'm exiling something that I really don't want to deal with. And instant speed, too. Another fun one that came out of that same set, again, I'm not sure which one, Supplant Form. For 6 mana, which is a little steep, but again, you know, that Worn Power Stone, pivotal turn. Return target creature to its owner's hand and put a token of it onto the battlefield. So it kind of copies something. I remove a creature from you and acquire a creature from you. Cyclonic Rift, staple. Propaganda, I threw this in the middle of columns because I wasn't sure where to throw it. This is kind of a slower deck for me. I can't really remember what Justen ran in his, but I have a feeling he also ran Propaganda. I didn't really get to see his deck list and how he made it, so I just kind of fudged it what I thought would work for me. So Propaganda really helps save my skin whenever I'm getting those slow starts. Vedalken Shackles. Now we're getting into my theft section. Vedalken Shackles is your public enemy number 1. You get this, and it's going to be a tough game for other people. Steal Artifact. Old school enchantment, stealing them artifacts. Control Magic. This is about as good as you get when it comes to enchantments like auras and stealing creatures. It's only 4 mana. Then we got Corrupted Conscience. 5 mana. Steals a creature and gives it Infect. That can destroy somebody super fast. And in fact, one of the games I won with Sakashima, I had Sakashima a Frost Titan, so Sakashima was Frost Titan. And being it was the biggest creature on the board, I Corrupted Conscience Sakashima and then used Copy Enchantment to copy Angelic Destiny on Sakashima and just hit somebody for 10 Infect off the bat. So that was pretty cool. Bribery. When you think of theft, you think of bribery. It's kind of a household name. Acquire. When you think of stealing theft artifacts from opponents' decks, you think of bribery still. But, you know, it's kind of the ugly stepsister of bribery, Acquire is. Dream Leash. Dream Leash steals permanents. Tapped permanents, but permanents nonetheless. That's why I have it in here. It's more versatile than just a simple mind control. Gather Specimens. This is one of those fun cards that people often overlook. When decks poop out tokens really fast, this can really rain on somebody's parade when you're stealing every single creature. They're dumping, you know, off a Genesis wave, they're dumping tons of creatures into play. Boom. You get them all. Spelljack. What better than stealing a creature than stealing a spell, period. Confiscate. Stealing a permanent. Volition Range. Stealing a permanent, then untapping it. Knowledge Exploitation. I like to exploit people's knowledge, and through that I exploit my own knowledge. This is super fun because you get to search somebody's deck for an instant or sorcery and play it for free. 7 mana does seem a little steep, but when I ran Thada Adel, who is a Merfolk rogue, you can get this for 4 mana. It's definitely not impossible. There's a rogue on the battlefield. Sakashima herself is a human rogue. Human Rogue. So it's not impossible to get that for 4 mana. Blatant Thievery. This is such a fun card for multiplayer, and again, it's just one of those iconic blue deck, makes everybody groan kind of cards, but I love it. Blatant Thievery is blatantly fun. Copy Artifact. Now we're delving into the copy section of the deck. From this point on to about the end where I have my column called Thinking Ahead, this is going to be copy stuff. So Copy Artifact. Whoops, bumped my camera. Copy an artifact for 2 mana. Dance of the Many. Old school card. It's super cheap. 2 blue. You put a token that's a copy of a creature onto the battlefield. Mirror Mockery. Now this is a tricky one. It came out of the one of the more recent sets, one of the cons ones. Don't know which one. Forgive me. Mirror Mockery. You put it on a creature. I can put it on my own creature if I have a good one. And every time it attacks, I get an extra enter the battlefield trigger, if nothing else. Now think of this. You're kind of having a slow start. You get this in hand. You can throw it on an opponent's creature. For example, maybe a Solemn Simulacrum. I don't know, whatever. Throw it on an opponent's creature, get a free blocker. Or, you know, on the flip side, a free enter the battlefield trigger. They're probably not going to come at you being you're making a token and you can block it. But, you know, worst case scenario, you're helping defend yourself. Sculpting Steel. Copy an artifact. Cackling Counterpart. Instant speed. Copy a creature. And it's got flashback. That instant speed for 3 mana really throws people off sometime. When you can just flash out a creature, pretty much, that's really nice to have. Copy Enchantment. It's literally what it is. Copying enchantment. Right of Replication. This little turd burglar will really steal games from people. You get that kicker off and somebody's gonna have a bad time. You're gonna have a bad time. Followed Footsteps. This allows me to kind of progenitor mimic every turn. Stolen Identity. This is super fun because if you can get hexproof on something, it's super hard to take care of. Super hard to get rid of. But I can copy an artifact or a creature multiple times, possibly. Okay, now we're getting into that final fun little stretch called Thinking Ahead. In the Thinking Ahead column, I thought, well, when I've got Sakashima out as a copy of something, for example, as I talked about earlier, Frost Titan. She's a Frost Titan. Stranic Resonator allows me to copy triggered abilities for 2 mana. If I have a Sun Titan, copy triggered ability. If I have an Inferno Titan, copy a triggered ability. A triggered ability can be a ton of different things. Reading the text, the triggered ability uses the words when, whenever, or at. If you look at Magic cards that just do things when they're sitting out there, 97% of the time they have one of those words in it. Stranic Resonator can copy it. Conjurer's Closet. When I'm stealing creatures, this allows me to A, get extra enter the battlefield triggers, and B, let them come into play under my control. So, even if I use control magic, I steal your Sun Titan. I flicker it with Conjurer's Closet, you know, it loses that control magic, but it becomes mine because it comes into play under my control. So it's permanent. Plus lots of creatures have enter the battlefield triggers. Duplicant, for example. Excellent. Redirect. Again, I'm going to be accruing a lot of hate. Redirect allows me to steal your intended target and hit somebody else. I kind of count that as like a thefty kind of copy type effect, so it's kind of for fun. Twincast legit copies something and I can choose new targets for the copy. Swifty Bees, a little bit of protection. Oops. Got the good old Mimic Vat. Again, when stuff's dying, hell yeah, will I throw a clone on a Mimic Vat? That becomes anything I want it to be at any time. So even if I'm Mimic Vatting, simple clone, clever impersonator, whatever, I'm getting something. Last but not least, the stoppage of time. What's worse than stealing somebody's creatures and stealing somebody's artifacts? Stealing their turn. Yes, okay, I could have ran Mindslaver, but I chose not to. I thought Time Stop is much more effective in this case. I guess Time Stop often comes out of nowhere. Again, this was a for sure card that was in Justen's version of Sakashima because it did exactly that. It came out of nowhere. Shoot, it ended my turn. Well, that sucked. You know, everything ends, effects end, everything ends, turn over. Instant speed. Can crush people out of nowhere. So, that is Sakashima the Imposter. I hope you liked it. I would love for you guys to give it a try. One thing that was brought to my attention from one of the guys around the fantasy shop area that subscribed to me is, you know, some of my decks are a little out of price range for him. And I was kind of thinking about that actually beforehand. But I think what I'm going to do moving forward is I'm going to pay attention to how much my decks cost. So that way, if somebody were to want to build them, it's definitely feasible. So, looking forward, I'm going to start using some off the broken path, beaten path cards. You know, maybe not the Sakashima the Imposter type cards that are like 15 bucks or whatever, but definitely more affordable decks. So hopefully you guys will like that too. But thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.